See you in the next module.
In this video, I'm going to go over the main mistakes that I see beginners make. Now, this is going to be a relatively long video and you might not completely understand everything that I say, but it's important you watch this full video from start to completion to just start picking up on some of the language that I'm using and not skip it. Because if you skip it and you follow some of my future tutorials, like around Facebook ads or something like that, I might not clearly explain these warnings before I do the action, and therefore you will get account bans or something bad's going to happen. Dropshipping is quite a frustrating thing when you first start. And this is because Shopify was always kind of like, do we like dropshippers? Do we not like dropshippers? Facebook was also like, do we like them? Do we not? And for a long time, people thought it was actually not even okay to do. Now, it's been a long time since that, and they're obviously very, very welcoming of it now, providing that you deliver a really, really good service and you comply by their policies. Now, the policies can be quite confusing and they can also change a lot. There also can be kind of some hidden things where they're not actually policies, but at the same time, they're expected of you. So not only this, I'm also going to cover some legal things and some things that I've made mistakes with as well. So the first big mistake that I want to point out is you need to be tracking your expenses. This is both on a daily level, but also on a accounting level. Too many people, they will set up a company. They won't even set up a company. They will start following a lot of the things that I'm going to cover in this course, and then they'll get some success, and then come tax time, they'll have no idea what they're doing. In month 2, they'll have no idea if they're profitable. And there's just a bunch of stuff that just doesn't work out unless you are organized and tracking your expenses. So step by step, I'm going to give you a video later on about how to do this with a software, using a free software as well. But I'm also going to do a video later on where we manually do this as well. It's largely going to also depend on, you can also just at the moment make sure that every single thing that you do, you're using your company email for, which I've set up, or I'm about to show you how to set up, so that all of your invoices are in your inbox. And then you want to just make sure that all of those invoices are, either organized in a software like Xero or MyOb or any of those accounting softwares. So we can link our bank to that so that all of those expenses flow through from the credit card or the whatever we're using to pay. Alternatively, we can just use an Excel spreadsheet at the moment, and we can just be like, yep, this is a Shopify expense. And then we basically match up the invoice as well. So long story short, just stay organized. When you pay for something, let's say you pay a creator or you pay a supplier or something like that, you just need to make sure that you have an invoice and that all of this is like organized and easy to find. On a daily level, so that's on a monthly level, on a daily level, we want to make sure all of our Shopify costs are set up correctly, which I'm going to show you how to do. And that way tracking our daily expenses, including tax. Okay, so sales tax is going to be a confusing little module that we're going to go through. But I've seen a lot of people get a lot of success. We launched a brand and we got it to $1 million a month in revenue. And then we hired a new CFO and the company was a mess at that point. And it was like, you're barely making money. In fact, you're losing money in some previous months where you're doing huge volumes. And this was all because we weren't accounting for sales tax. So we need to make sure that we are sophisticated with that. Company setup, I'm going to do a complete video on that, which I'm going to show you how to use ChatGPT to start researching these kind of more complicated accounting side of things and go through, I'll just go through Australia, UK, and the US, just because that's where most of my viewers are. But at the same time, you can just copy the exact framework. But realistically, you want to set up a company if you can, if you think that you're going to get some success in this, or it's just a good practice to lodge and get a company because of liability. If you get sued and you just set this all up in your personal name, because let's say you do something and let's say you have any other assets within your personal name, suddenly that is all now become liable. Also, from a tax perspective, you're going to be paying way, way more tax. So I'm going to show you how to set up a company. And I see that's a massive mistake that people make. The other thing is registering for sales tax. So now there is a bunch, as I'm filming this, there's a bunch of, I'm not sure if Kamala or Trump is going to get elected. That's going to be a very interesting one to look back at. But Trump is saying that he's going to really kind of change the import tariffs and the tax side of things. And also even the Biden administration right now is going after what's called de minimis, which is when we sell a product under a certain sales threshold, a certain amount, depending on what we're selling our product for. If it's like a $20 product, we might not need to pay import taxes on, depending on the country that we're selling it to. We might not need to collect that and also pay that, for example, in the UK. So understanding your tax liabilities for that, which I'm going to cover in a later date, is really, really important as well. This stuff sounds a little bit overwhelming, but I promise you I'm going to cover it. I just want you to have this like base level of awareness of the language that I'm talking about and the potential liabilities that you are going to have creating a business. I remember going into my tax lawyer's office when I was relatively new and starting out in business. And he said, look, if you have a job with someone else, like let's say you're a teacher, your risk in life is probably like a 3, okay? It's a relatively stable job. As soon as you start a business, any business, your risk probably doubles to 6 out of 10. There's unknown unknowns that you don't know. And this is why we try to get knowledge so we can at least make those issues known unknowns. Like now you know that you don't know about tax. So there's a big, big difference there, and that can sometimes cover us. Now, the other thing that you need to consider is insurance. So whenever we sell a product, we should probably get product liability insurance in case someone chokes on it or hurts themselves on the product. And I see a lot of people not get insurance. Let's say you already have a deposit in a house. You're the 30-year-old or something like that, and you're just like, I want to break through this 9 to 5. And I'm going to try a side hustle. You set up a company, or you don't set up a company, you just start drop shipping, you don't do your due diligence, you make a mistake, and unfortunately someone gets hurt. Then they are going to sue you personally because you don't have a company. There's going to be no insurance and you can lose your house. And that's what I want you to kind of avoid. So having a company set up and then having the proper insurance and doing the proper due diligence around the supplier is key. The next thing is trademarks as well. So if you start to get success, one thing you might find is that the actual supplier themselves trademark your business name and in China, and then kind of extort you so that you can never leave that business. The other thing that you might find as well is people that try to trademark your product in another country that you're not selling in. So as soon as we hit a decent amount of profits, and I'm talking like at least $10,000 a month on our first business, we should be trademarking it. If I was to launch a brand new business, trademarks would be one of the first things that I do. Business structure, I covered that a little bit, but with business structures as well come certain tax complications, which if you already are making a little bit of money, you have a family or something like that, you do want to actually chat to your tax advisor about the best way to structure the tax side of the business, because businesses can be extremely beneficial for your tax position if set up correctly, more so than employees, because you're going to have income tax there. And there's certain expenses that you can deduct through the business, providing they're producing revenue. Terms of service is a big one. When we go through our Shopify module, when we set up our Shopify store, we're going to set up things like our terms of service and our privacy policy. This is something that Shopify makes quite easy with templates. We can just kind of one click and set it up. But you do want to make sure that you kind of have that set up and you're abiding by the terms of service that you are giving your customer. That's all the stuff that I see no drop shipping courses talking about, because truthfully, they probably don't really understand it that much, or they think it's irrelevant, or they think that, people don't want to hear it, but I'm not just trying to give you a little bit of success and give you a taste of the industry. I'm trying to make you a millionaire. I'm trying to make you with so much abundance in the future that these things become an issue. I want these things to become an issue, to force you to learn them because you are so successful, pretty much. Now, the next one is PayPal. PayPal is a bit of a necessary evil to many people. It's a very trusted thing for the consumer. I wouldn't be surprised if one day PayPal becomes less relevant, to be completely honest. But if you can have PayPal in your store, customers are going to trust you a lot more, and your conversion rate, meaning the amount of customers that go onto your website and convert to purchase, will be higher because that payment option exists. Now, when you set up your Shopify store, one of the first things that we're going to do is we want to change our PayPal address because it automatically creates based on the Shopify email. And we're going to want to make sure that that's the right PayPal. And we're also going to want to make sure that, we set up PayPal correctly so we don't get banned straight away. With PayPal, the main thing that we need to do is not get banned on this. It's a nightmare. I was banned for like 8 years because I was a clueless kid. I believe I was selling when I was very young and like very early in my entrepreneurial years, and I just didn't really know what I was doing, which caused, I probably lost tens of millions of dollars in sales because of that. Luckily, we have a really great business now and they're a trusted partner for us. You really want to make sure with PayPal that you are not getting any disputes. Disputes meaning when you are like, when someone purchases, maybe you don't ship for a while, maybe you send them the wrong product, maybe you do something bad, maybe the communication's really poor, and then they open a dispute, meaning that they're requesting a refund pretty much. If you have a large amount of disputes or a very delayed amount of time before the product is shipped and a tracking number is provided on PayPal, you will get banned off their service. And this is why using a really trusted dropshipping partner that can deliver with really fast shipping times is kind of key here. The other thing that you really need to do is make sure that you're just constantly monitoring PayPal, that it's with an active email, because the warnings will pop up, communication will happen from customers, and you just want to make sure that you're providing a really transparent amount of information in a timely manner, and then you shouldn't get banned. Then also, make sure that you're providing all the tracking details for your orders, which we're going to do in the Shopify section. The other payment processor that you're probably going to use from the outset, and in fact, we're definitely going to use, is Shopify Payments, which is the default payment provider on Shopify when we set up. This is very similar. It can sometimes ban you if you're selling something like a little bit shady, or let's say you're selling trademarked goods, or like you're selling a licensed product, like a Disney product, when you're not, and Disney complains to you, or maybe you're selling something completely against Shopify terms of service, like I don't believe weapons is one of them, but something along those lines could cause you a few issues there as well. So picking a product that is appropriate is going to help you there. But make, again, all of the same issues. The other thing is image theft. If you're just stealing people's images and you're getting DMCA'd, which is like where someone reports that image and getting taken down and Shopify just checks it out, they're going to kind of freak out. Both of these payment providers are going to freak out if your sales go through the roof. I remember talking to two guys. They were just like, I need a session with you. They were like offered me absurd amounts of money to jump on a call with them to try to help them with this option. I turned down the money. I just jumped on because the money was so absurd. And they were scaling up to $1 million days in like 6 months into the process, into their business. And I was like, this is crazy. And then Shopify just killed their site, just turned it off. And it was kind of hard to decide why. I think it was because they had a few chargebacks and they were selling a product that was electrical, and they just got absolutely shut down. And I think it was if that was a gradual over a 3-year period with no chargebacks, with their own imagery and a bit of a brand behind it, I don't think that would have happened. So there is such thing as scaling maybe too fast, especially with this early stage business, which brings us to Facebook. Getting banned off Facebook ads is probably one of the most common complaints, the most frustrating complaints that I get. Now, I'm going to find a trusted partner that can get people unbanned off Facebook, help people with bans, and I might put them in millionaires.com somewhere, because truthfully, you might not be able to afford that because you're just kind of beginning. So the best thing is prevention. Now, there's a few things that we have to do that's a little bit different. Actually, Shopify and PayPal, make sure that you are setting up with your full name, your proper name that's on your passport, on your address. Make sure that you're putting your proper postal address within that. You make sure you're maybe not using VPNs all the time to confuse them and freak them out. And that will also help you not get banned. But that's similar to Facebook, right? You can see the commonalities between these people. They're just trying to make sure you're not scamming customers, you are who you say you are, and you follow all of the steps. So Facebook, getting banned there is going to be a nightmare. If you scale up too quickly, they might ban you. Then you want to, when you go through the process, make sure that you set up a business manager on Facebook, which we're going to do together. Make sure that you can verify either your business through that, or you verify your identity as well. Things like making sure that your landing page is very, very accurate. You've got responsive communication. Again, the IP flags that I mentioned is another one. Your valid payment method. This one's a little bit different to PayPal and Shopify. So if you put a card in there that isn't your card or something, and that gets reported, game over, you're done. Make sure that you are putting a card in there that has enough funds that isn't going to just get denied the first payment. Don't add the payment method, gets denied, add the payment method. The more times you have to click around this stuff, chances are you're going to break something, or they're going to think you're a bot, or they're just going to flag you as like, hey, you're trying to do something dodgy here. Yeah, and try not to make like really false or outlandish claims as well for your product, especially if you're selling something medical. Like chances are they'll go to a manual review and it'll pop up and you're like, I can cure diabetes in 2 weeks. And then all three of them will just go, nah, banned. And you don't want to do that. Some brands you might see scaling like on Facebook, and you're like, how are they getting away with this? They're using before and after photos. They're doing all of these crazy claims. And chances are they've gone past this stage where it's like, probably is automated, to be completely honest. I'm not 100% sure. It's either automated or a very low tier level of agents that are reviewing these sites. My guess is it's probably automated initially. And these larger sites that are making some of these outlandish claims are past that stage. Hence, they're getting away with it and you might not. There is one other thing about Facebook that you might hear a lot where you're like, oh, my Facebook's already been banned. Davey, where were you ages ago with all of this structuring stuff and all of these warnings? And you can use something called an agency account. Now, I don't know anything about agency accounts. To be transparent, I've never had a Facebook ad account ban. I've never had any issues with the Shopify payments either. In fact, I've never had an ad account ban. I've mentioned a few issues with PayPal, which I take total responsibility for in the early years. But the fact that I now run legitimate businesses with amazing products that bring joy, that have great reviews, and I deliver them at a really quick service, and I don't do anything dodgy. I'm in Australia, a very trusted region. I use my computer every single time. Never had any issues, and you shouldn't either if you're doing that kind of stuff. Whereas if you're already banned, you might want to use something called an agency account, and I give you all of that context simply because I've never used an agency account. This is what my dropshipping friends talk about. I'm not actually hugely familiar with them. I'm not sure if they're 100% legal. I'm not sure if they're 100% against Facebook's terms of service. So you need to do some research there and get some consulting. Maybe I'll put an expert dropshipper in our Discord. If we find that like people need them and everything checks out, okay, then maybe we can give a contact for you guys to get an agency account so you can finally run Facebook ads through that agency account. Now, there's a difference between hiring an agency, like a Facebook agency, and getting them to create your account for you, and they own your pixel and your business manager, compared to what is referred to as an agency account. So getting an agency to run an account, massive red flag. If an agency ever says, hey, we'll set up this Facebook ad account for you and you're not banned on Facebook, and they're like, we'll own the pixel, but blah, blah, blah. Massive red flag. Do not use that agency. They're a scam artist, and they are doing that so that you can never leave that agency, which is that, and you're not going to own any of your data. And therefore, yeah, whenever you want to try to leave, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Now, an agency account is, I guess, something similar because you're kind of getting access to this other account, but you're still able to kind of do things on it. So that was kind of a very vague description, but at the same time, you can go search agency accounts on YouTube and learn from an expert about that. But I think 99.95% of people won't need that, and you can just basically not get banned in the first place. Other thing to remember, mistakes that I see people make, even the $1 million brands in Daily Mentor are getting hacked on all of these platforms. The first thing that you do is you set up two-factor authentication, okay, across everything, email, across Facebook, everything. Facebook will have an option that you can say, hey, does everyone need to do two-factor authentication or just admins? You'll set it to everyone. It's just a non-negotiable for everything that you do. It's just a good habit to get into. The other thing on Facebook is you've got targeting restrictions. Don't just like go buy lists of customers and add those lists and try to do something hacky. Just copy the exact Facebook frameworks that I give in my Facebook sessions, and you should be pretty good. So second part of this video, I'm just going to show you how to use ChatGPT to find more answers about company setups before you have to go to professionals like accountants and lawyers and whatnot. So the prompt I'm going to use is be a business advisor, be technical. I want to set up a drop shipping store. I want to know things about how to set up companies. Be a business advisor / accountant / lawyer. Let's try that. Be technical. Companies I am located. Actually, let's do breakdown the difference between UK, US, and AU. You can add your country there. And let me just walk you through some of this language. So we've got a bunch of legal structures that we can set up. So the first one is, which I think is, in the UK, Australia, and the US. In the US, it's called a sole proprietorship, but it's sole trader in Australia and the United Kingdom. Now, this is often what a lot of people will do in the early stages. I think it's probably one of the least preferred options in my opinion, simply because it's going to have very, very high tax for you. And also you've still got liability on yourself personally. So not a great structure. And the next thing is setting up a company, which is an LTD in the UK. It's also PTY LTD in Australia, and then LLC in the United Kingdom. Now, this is probably the preferred structure. You can go into ASIC in Australia, or you can go into Companies House or whatever in the UK, and you can set this up and lodge all the documents yourself. Alternatively, your accountant will do it very, very quickly for you and probably do it correctly. That is the ideal structure. But again, if you're just first starting out and you've got like, hey, I've got like $1,000 to launch this product, then maybe you can't afford that. But again, get some advice here. Don't sue me because you didn't get advice. That is probably what I'm trying to say there. Then you've got a bunch of other structures as well that if you're going to use these, I would insist that you get advice for them. So like S Corps, C Corps, partnerships as well. They're all just a little bit more complicated, and the tax obligations will be very different to depending on the person and situation. So we can break down the tax as well. So corporation tax is going to have 19%. It's going to be all pretty similar, 21%, and then Australia is 25%. And that's basically, if you set up the corporation, you're going to be paying similar amounts regardless. If you're personally running the business, it's going to be taxed as like income tax, and you're going to be paying upwards of like 40%. If it's set up as a company, you're going to be paying the tax within the company at the company level, which is those numbers that I've just talked about, which is like 20 to 25% ish. But then when you drag it out to use it personally, you're then going to pay tax on top of that, which brings you to a similar number, right? So in the end, the main difference is like at the end of the year, if it's all getting taxed as personal income, you're going to have far less money because you might not want to take all the money out. You might want to just keep using it in the business. So that's something to really consider. Then we've got sales taxes as well, which when you hit a certain threshold within a region, you need to register for sales tax. So the thresholds, cool, they gave the thresholds here. So if you are doing over 75,000 AUD, and it's probably similar in the other regions, I'll explain US in a sec, it gets a little bit complicated. If you're doing over that, you actually need to register for GST and sales tax, and you're probably going to want to register the company at that point as well. In the US, it goes state by state. So you actually, I believe Shopify can do it. We use software to manage it at scale, but I believe Shopify has some level of warnings if you set up in the US where it tells you when you're starting to get to those thresholds. Again, I'm not a tax lawyer. This is definitely one of my weak spots. So I'm just giving you the overall. Some other compliance things. You need to obviously file annually when you're running a business. Every single year, you need to file how much money you've made so that people know how much tax you need to pay as well. You've also got payroll and superannuation. If you're going to hire employees in Australia, that can get a little bit complicated. Sounds like it's similar in the UK. I don't have employees there. But let's leave that at the moment. It's just something to be aware of that you'll need to register. GST filing. So you've got your income tax, which will most likely be annually. Now, depending on your turnover, you might also pay GST annually, which is your sales tax. So there are two different types of tax. One is how much you make, and then the other one is how much GST you collect from customers. Now, GST, sales tax, you have every time you sell a product, you might have seen your invoice, or like this isn't just Australia. Let's say you're selling a product for $100 and then it's got this little line. It might be like GST $9 underneath it. You are collecting that tax. Sometimes it can be inclusive or not inclusive. It might be $110 when you finally check out, but the product's only $100. Alternatively, it might be $100 and then the tax is inclusive, so it's the $9, if that makes sense. You can change that setting in Shopify how you want to handle it, but basically what that means is whatever that number is you are collecting that on behalf of the customer to pay to the government at a later date. But then every time you pay GST, let's say on importing the goods, or let's say you pay a graphic designer who also charges GST, you can actually deduct it from all of that money that you are collecting from the customers. So let's say you collect $100 of GST from all of your customers, but you've paid $20 in GST, the difference is going to be $80. So that's kind of how that sales tax works, which is typically why you really, when you start to hit a certain threshold, you're going to need a piece of accounting software to start tracking all of this. And you don't want to hire some terrible bookkeeper who doesn't understand local sales tax and how to treat those, because chances are you're going to kind of stuff it up. I do believe that setting up companies is going to be a better way to get Facebook compliance, all of that kind of stuff, which we talked about in another video. But yeah, I think that's the general structure. If we went really advanced, you can structure things in Australia with holding companies as well. So in Australia, it can be very tax beneficial to have a trust that owns the company, and it can even have a holding company in between the company so that you can pay up dividends and protect income and assets and whatnot. But again, that's pretty advanced stuff that you'll need a tax attorney to talk to you about. But yeah, I hope that gives you the requirement. Again, just summarizing, if you're just starting out and you're willing to accept the liability of running the company, then chances are you don't need to set up a company and you can take all the negatives. If you are experienced, you have assets, and you want to do it properly, set up a company. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, so get advice when possible.